Here I have some Blacktail Mountain watermelon grafted onto the top of some bottle gourds that I grew. I grew both last year actually and saved the seeds from both. And I want to get more resistance to diseases, crispier fruit, more fruit, etc. So this is an experiment. So what you saw first was my first test batch, since I've never done it before, to see how they're doing. They've been in there a couple of days. They look pretty darn good. So here we have some more seeds I'm going to start grafting. Again, on the right we have the bottle gourd, which is going to be the disease-resistant rootstock, hopefully more vigorous than the watermelon on the left here. And again, it's the Blacktail Mountain. So I'm going to get grafting. So some of the tools I'd be using include some sterilized with bleach seed trays. Basically, I'm going to pull the gourd out, drop it in the tray, maybe just give me enough room, maybe 2 or 3 in a tray, do my slice, then drop it into a healing chamber, which basically consists of one of these plastic trays and a tall dome. So in case I didn't mention it before, I also am using some paper towel and some regular old 70% rubbing alcohol. I sterilize all my equipment, including my blade. Whoop, there it is, which I reuse, and I'll sterilize it every 3 or 4 slices, just to try and keep things sanitary. So here we go. I'm going to go ahead and pull out a gourd. I'm doing this kind of one-handed, but basically I grab the gourd just for ease of use and slide it right back into a similar sized. Now what I'm going to do is, you're going to apologize because my phone's attached to a charger. I'm actually just going to make a cut, slice through. There's a couple ways to do this. I'll demonstrate the first way I've done it, which is basically leave one leaf, slice through all the new growth and one leaf, take that off at a nice angle, and then we'll do the same thing to the base of a watermelon and match it up, and then we'll clip it. So basically I've made my cut. If I could get this phone to focus. I made my cut, which I've left there. That's the gourd. And now I've cut my watermelon similarly, and I'm going to use this plastic tomato clip. And I wish I could hold the phone and show you as I'm cutting, but it takes a couple of hands more than I have. Basically there's some sap running from both a little bit, and they're not sized perfectly like I do with tomatoes. The gourd is definitely a lot bigger. I just try and get a nice similar cut, and they're both oozing pretty good, and I just marry them up. And even though the gourd surface is a lot larger, like I said, 2 days in the healing chamber, my first batch looks pretty good. When I'm all done, I will spritz the inside of this cover with the vents closed, get it nice and moist, and let it heal in the chamber, keeping an eye on it every day, maybe adding a little spritz to the outside, but not overwatering the soil so I don't have any disease developments. I won't demonstrate this technique, but it's something I figured out from looking at some forums for tomato grafting, and that is, instead of taking the roots and keeping them, to actually make the cut right at the base of the plant. I actually saw a photo or a video where somebody was actually doing that with a robot and grafting melons. So I thought, okay, well, that must work. They must develop their own roots pretty easily, self-rooting. So when I have 2 gourds in one pot like this, I might just use them both. But like I said, instead of tearing the roots apart, just make cuts at the bottom. Then, instead of putting them in soil, what I do is, you can see a couple of old failed tomatoes and a couple of successful experiments here. I use this diatomaceous earth from the auto parts store. It's a fine grain. I get it nice and wet, and then I take a little tool of some sort, like this little wooden, see if I can get it in the frame there, this little wooden stick, and make a nice little hole right in there that's nice and clean. And then I'll just take that grafted plant and stick it right in that hole, water it in a little bit, and then that way I don't worry about diseases damping off and that kind of thing. So that's what I can do if I have multiple plants packed tightly together like this. But this next technique is still using the same intact roots. I'll demonstrate that next. So I'm going to work, or when I cut the center leaf out, I kind of gently work down both sides a little bit just to get it kind of loosened, and then I use the point of the blade to kind of cut deeply into the center to get all the middle true leaves out. I'll probably even slice down a little slit a little bit, and then I'm going to use my screwdriver just to kind of make a little hole in there to fit the watermelon plant. Then I'll cut the watermelon plant. I'll kind of slice those same similar angles that we've been cutting, but on both sides to form kind of a pointed wedge. And I'll work that in, and then I'll clip it. Well, I think this particular technique is a lot more time consuming and not really worth it in my opinion, but I kind of roughed out a little hole there and wedged out my watermelon to fit in it, kind of shoved it in, and then kind of clip it all closed. And like I said on my previous techniques using this, or instances using this, they seem to be just fine. They're nice and firm and standing up tall.